scientist is to look at the world through a different lens. Rocket scientists imagine the unimaginable and solve the unsolvable. They transform failures into triumphs and constraints into advantages. They view mishaps as solvable puzzles rather than insurmountable roadblocks. They're moved not by blind conviction, but by self-doubt. Their goal is not short-term results, but long-term breakthroughs. They know that the rules aren't set in stone, the default can be altered, and a new path can be forged. Some of the insights I'll share in this book are common to all sciences. But the ideas assume a grander scale in rocket science given the stakes involved. With every launch, hundreds of millions of dollars, and for human spaceflight, numerous lives are at stake. At its core, a rocket launch is the controlled explosion of a small nuclear bomb. Controlled being the operative word. A rocket burns with unbelievable fury. One wrong step, one miscalculation, and you can expect the worst. There are 1,000 things that can happen when you go to light a rocket engine, explains SpaceX propulsion chief Tom Mueller, and only one of them is good. Everything we take for granted on Earth is turned on its head in space, literally and metaphorically. There are countless points of potential failure in sending delicate spacecraft made up of millions of parts and hundreds of miles of wiring barreling through the unforgiving environment of space. When something breaks, as it inevitably does, rocket scientists must isolate the signal from the noise and home in on the potential culprits, which may be in the thousands. What's worse, these problems often occur when the spacecraft is beyond human reach. You can't just pop the hood and have a look inside. In the modern era, rocket science thinking is a necessity. The world is evolving at dizzying speed, and we must continuously evolve with it to keep pace. Although not everyone aspires to calculate burn rate coefficients or orbital trajectories, we all encounter complex and unfamiliar problems in our daily lives. Those who can tackle these problems without clear guidelines and with the clock ticking enjoy an extraordinary advantage. Despite its tremendous benefits, we often assume that thinking like a rocket scientist is beyond the ability of mere mortals without a special kind of genius. Hence the common saying, it's not rocket science. We identify with Elton John's Rocket Man, who, despite being selected for a Mars mission, laments about all the science I don't understand. We also empathize with Chaim, Charles Wiseman, the first president of Israel, who once crossed the Atlantic with Albert Einstein. Every morning, they sat for 2 hours on the ship's deck as Einstein explained the theory of relativity to him. At the end of the trip, Wiseman said he was convinced that Einstein understood relativity. This book won't teach you relativity or the intricate details of rocket propulsion. In other words, the science behind rocket science. No aptitude for crunching numbers is required. Lurking behind the elusive subject of rocket science are life-changing insights on creativity and critical thinking that anyone can acquire without a PhD in astrophysics. Science, as Carl Sagan put it, is a way of thinking much more than it is a body of knowledge. You won't be a rocket scientist by the end of this book, but you'll know how to think like one.
The term rocket science is popular jargon. There is no college major called rocket science, no job with the official title rocket scientist. Instead, the term is used colloquially to refer to the science and engineering behind space travel, and that's the broad definition I'll use in this book. I'll explore the work of both scientists, the idealistic explorers engaged in research about the cosmos, and engineers, who are the pragmatic designers of hardware that makes spaceflight possible. I was once one of them. I worked on the operations team for the Mars Exploration Rovers project, which sent 2 rovers to the Red Planet in 2003. I planned operation scenarios, helped select landing sites, and wrote code for snapping photos of Mars. To this day, my rocket science past remains the most interesting part of my resume. During speaking engagements, the person introducing me inevitably says, "The most intriguing thing about Ozan is that he used to be a rocket scientist." This produces a collective gasp, and the audience promptly forgets what